Westfield.
There was a point before the FPS was king, before MOBAs and Battle Royales, before the Pokemans, Minecrafts and Robloxes came to be, and in that time the beat-em-up was king. From 1989 to the mid-90s, you could barely move without bumping into one, and it would proceed to beat 10 bells of snot out of you before smashing a bin and eating a chicken found inside it. It was the glorious era of the beat-em-up, and it was glorious. But before we get going, I have a Patreon, the link's below and at the end of the video. Be cool if you wanted to support this endless quest for glory. Cool? Cool. Anyway, those making games in the 80s soon stumbled on a stark truth. People liked simplicity in their games, and they liked to feel powerful. This desire for a power trip meant games like Renegade, Bad Dudes vs Dragon Ninja and Double Dragon were the perfect fit. You were hard as nails, you could play with friends, it was simplistic enough that even your non-games playing friends could join in, and there were some genuinely good, well, sometimes genuinely good home conversions, meaning you had the arcade at home. It was and still is a great recipe, even if the arcade is now dead, and you should check out my video on arcades. Ahem. The beat-em-up genre was already developing apace, and the likes of River City Ransom, from the creators of Renegade, showed this was no flash in the pan. It was developing and evolving. 1989 marked a turning point though, with the arcade pumping out a bunch of big hitters soon to become legends. Early that year, Sega released Golden Axe, a game bringing together the already established norms of pottering about thwacking people over the head with the less used, at least in the genre, fantasy setting. With swords and axes and dragons and death adders and thunderheads, it was a huge hit and saw a superb home port on multiple machines. Capcom, meanwhile, had been busy making itself a sequel to the alright but not great little game known as Street Fighter. Partway through development, this new game broke off to become its own thing, and Final Fight was born. The game in which a wrestler became mayor of an American town, and as if that would ever happen. Final Fight raised the bar graphically, mechanically, in every way it could, and unsurprisingly led Capcom to hold the beat-em-up throne throughout the Golden Age, which must have been nice. Elsewhere, we saw the impact a popular license could have with Konami's release of the Teenage Mutant Ninja, or Hero if you grew up in Britain, Turtles arcade game. Big, brash, bold, nailing the feel of the cartoon and capitalising on the absolute zenith of the show's popularity, Turtles was also a bloody solid game, and the sole reason I asked for so much money off my parents down at the local pub where, for some reason, they did actually have a 4-player cabinet in the kids' room. Ah, back when Konami actually made games. Speaking of... Crime Fighters was another good game from 1989, and its sequel Vendetta wasn't half bad either, but Turtles had done something to Konami. That being, made the company realise it could make a hell of a lot of money by churning out fun, if samey, arcade games based on existing licenses. It's of little surprise then that so many of these are burned into my memory forever, as they will be in many of yours. By 1991, another zeitgeist was pounced on by an eager Konami, slapped inside a 4-player arcade cabinet and infected with a catchy theme tune direct from the TV show in its attract mode. The Thompsons. Wait, Simpsons. What a game. I mean, in retrospect it's shallow as they come, limited and quite boring after just a couple of levels, but for one, that doesn't matter as you'll die well before a couple of levels are up thanks to arcade difficulty, and two, that sprite scaling, man. Konami saw it was onto something. Following a brief jaunt to Bucky O'Hare, replacing fisticuffs with shooting, it was back to the wholesale battery of minions with the release of, yep, another 4-player arcade game, X-Men. As well as furnishing us with the legendary quote of "Welcome to Die," X-Men provided a bunch of different characters with skills and abilities that actually offered some variety. It was a legend at Herringthorpe Leisure Centre, and I think I played it even more than the hacked version of Street Fighter 2 they had there. You know, the one where Balrog shot fireballs from his fist. The Konami pattern, like the code but less exciting, had been firmly set by this point, but it wasn't going to last forever. The company managed another few licensed releases in the genre, with the better at home Turtles in Time offering a great sequel to the arcade original, and Asterix being utterly bizarre in that nobody knew they wanted an Asterix game until Konami made an Asterix game. Thrashing Romans as our plucky Gaulish heroes is still fun, I must say. For whatever reason though, the licenses drifted away from Konami's arcade division. While it did still stick with the coin-up beat-em-up genre for a while, this particular burst of activity was short-lived. That's not to say what followed was bad, not by any means. Gaiopolis, let's learn how to pronounce that, was an inventive spin on the genre, bringing RPG progression to the arcade and not, I repeat, not, including any kind of level on a lift, or requiring you to hit bins to get food. There was Metamorphic Force too, which, while not a legend, was far better than Altered Beast could ever hope to be. We eventually got a third title in the Crime Fighters series, with Violent Storm showing Konami really did know what it was doing, even without expensive popular licenses attached. It's absolutely the most derivative of the company's arcade brawlers, borrowing more than liberally from Final Fight in its ilk, but it's really good fun all the same. The thing was, though, a lot of attention surrounding the genre had moved to the home. Developers had realised they could make some genuinely great home ports of beat-em-ups as well as fine original titles on SNES, Mega Drive and other machines, so some of the attention had shunted that way. Really, the home had been home to beat-em-ups for a number of years by the time the golden era rolled around, but there was a notable increase in sheer numbers as the years rolled by. Golden Axe's port to Mega Drive was a future legend, and Sega followed this up shortly after with another fine arcade-to-home port of Alien Storm, which blended some Operation Wolf-style shooting sections in with the more straightforward batter all the aliens action. Many of the sound effects do still make me want to remove my ears and have them burned, mind you. A couple of sequels to Golden Axe followed, avoiding the arcade entirely and positioning themselves as Mega Drive exclusives. They were, well, I'll go with mixed in quality. But it was a statement of intent from Sega. There was a viable home for the beat-em-up in the home, and the explosion in popularity of the genre would not be limited to arcades. Less questionable in quality was Sega's other beat-em-up series, Streets of Rage, otherwise known by its frankly much better Japanese title of Bare Knuckle. I don't think I have to say too much about these. Beautiful, atmospheric, surprisingly deep, and with the best music the Mega Drive was ever able to produce, it's a series that is, to this day, lauded all up the wazoo. Technical term. All three are great, and all three still deserve to be played and played and played again. I mean, the rival turf, well, Rushing Beat trilogy on SNES was alright, but it's no Streets of Rage, is it? Naturally, it wasn't just Sega at it, and others did get in on the hype train. Rare's attempt to make us all hate all games by making Battletoads will forever be beyond me, admittedly, but some people seem to pretend they remember it fondly. Pre-Golden Era titles made comebacks in this new age too, with the likes of Super Double Dragon and Splatterhouse 2 bringing back dormant franchises with a new lick of paint and taking on many of the lessons learned for this new age, as well as just being really hard. And we weren't free of licenses, or Konami for that matter, in the home, with the company bringing its expertise across the board to Nintendo's machines with Batman Returns, one of the handful of actually good Batman games on home consoles of the era. Blizzard, meanwhile, yes, that Blizzard, was behind the death and return of Superman on both Mega Drive and SNES. Released in 1994, it was one of the late-era examples that showed just how heavily comics would rely on the beat-em-up genre. But it wasn't DC that leveraged the old punchy jab the most. No, it was the realm of Wolverine and Black Cat, Spidey and Rogue, Hawkeye and Dazzler? It was Marvel, basically. Marvel saw a lot of games following the beat-em-up template, like the aforementioned X-Men in the arcades or Sega's offering of Spider-Man the video game in 1991, which managed a few tweaks to the formula, introducing platforming elements of a kind between levels to break up the punchy punch. Still, imagine being stuck as player 4 and having to be Hawkeye. It seems obvious this would be the genre for Marvel titles, what with superheroes having a penchant for battering endless waves of henchmen. Captain America and the Avengers got in on things as Data East crafted a delightfully comic booky but ultimately forgettable arcade game in 1991, though Cap could punch bins, while Capcom knocked another one out of the park with 1993's The Punisher. Who would have thought a comic book about a man who's really angry and devastates all those who stand in his way would translate well to an arcade and Mega Drive game where the concept is to do exactly that? The more you know. As the Golden Era moved on, it seemed we couldn't go a few months without another Marvel game taking on the genre. Sort of like how right now you can't go more than 3 days without another MCU film coming out. And just like those MCU releases, there were some duds. Spider-Man and Venom Maximum Carnage was one such dud in 1994, making us all wonder aloud if there was maybe something else that could be done with Spidey to make his game stand out. We got there eventually, but not immediately. Anyway, it was literally a wait of a month before another Marvel licensed beat-em-up came out on SNES, and seeing as X-Men Mutant Apocalypse was really very good, though once again difficult to my current old man hands, it managed to wash the foul taste of Venom out somewhat. Kind of like how Guardians of the Galaxy removed the bad memory of Winter Soldier from our brain holes, or how Ed Norton's Incredible Hulk was followed by absolutely anything at all. It's all a pattern, you know? But it was a pattern that couldn't last. The market was saturated with every other release being a beat-em-up and license holders seeing the genre as an easy way to make a quick buck. We the people can be taken advantage of for a short time, but soon enough we wake up and smell the cynicism. The golden era of the beat-em-up sunset was on the horizon. Wait, is that a thing that even happens? I have no idea about these metaphors. Anyway, you can hear all about it in part 2, where I get to my favourite creator of beat-em-ups from the golden era, Capcom. Thanks for watching. Please do like, share, subscribe, spread the word, and replay Final Fight 1 on Game Boy Advance because it's an absolutely phenomenal port of the original and is portable. Portable! Right now I want to give thanks to my $5 or more tier supporters on Patreon because they give me hope for a brighter tomorrow. Wait, no, that's too melodramatic. Just thanks. And I'd love to give super special thanks to my higher tier supporters, so I will. You're all wonderful and I am fond of you. Video Brains or Jake Tucker, Takara Hoshi, Lola Osman. Thanks for your support and thanks for watching. There are a lot of beat-em-ups from this era, a lot won't make the cut. I'm not even sorry. Bye!